What's up, everybody? It's your boy Season. So today we have the Riobot Mazin Emperor G. This is from Sentinel. So this pretty much is an alternate version of Great Mazin Kaiser. So I definitely wanted to take a look at this. I was not going to miss out on this guy. So we're not going to waste any more time. Let's go. So let's take a look and see what we've got in the box. So first we have the manual. Of course, we'll take a look at this a little later. So you've got there. Then you have the Sentinel or D4 exclusive parts. This is for the, I want to say it's pronounced the Aureole, but I could be wrong about that. I've never played Super Robot Wars, but it looks like you have the special parts or the exclusive parts for this one. So you've got that. You've got Mazin Emperor G here with the blades for the Great Smasher Punch. So you've got those, you've got his extra set of hands here, and you've got the Emperor Sword up here. So we've got that. And then what else do we got? Let's move this out of the way. All right. And then we've got the cape here. It looks like you have two more swords here with the back pad. I think that's probably the connecting part for the cape there. And then you've got parts for the stand. Looks like, I don't know what this is. That may be batteries or something else. I'm not sure. But I guess we'll take a look at it here shortly. And then we have the stand on the back. So it looks like a pretty simple release. Nothing too complicated, not a ton of accessories. So we'll take a look at this stuff here in a little bit. But first, we're gonna take a look at the manual next. So let's take a look at this manual for Mazin Emperor G. Now, I don't think there's gonna be anything that's too difficult in here. Now, we have his parts list here with the special parts here and the stand stuff there. It does look like this is in English and Japanese, so I don't think we'll have an issue understanding it, so that's good. I don't see anything in here that is going to be overly complicated. Now, as far as I know about the story of Mazin Emperor G, his first appearance, to my knowledge, was in Super Robot Wars V. So that was the first time we ever saw him. Now, there are two trains of thought. Looks like that's the end. So yeah, there's nothing in here that I think is overly complicated. So I think we'll be okay there. Now, there's two trains of thought as far as how he came to be. We do know that he is an alternate version of Great Mazin Kaiser. As far as why Great Mazin Kaiser is not in the game and they did Mazin Emperor G instead, the first train of thought is, and this is all rumor, so I don't know this officially, but based on what I've read online and things of that nature, this seems to be the case, is that they didn't put Great Mazin Kaiser in the Super Robot Wars games because he looked too similar to the original Mazin Kaiser. And so they wanted to spruce him up a little bit. So that's one train of thought. The second train of thought, now this is a spoiler for anybody who has not read the manga from Shin Mazinger Zero or the sequel, which was, I think, the General of Darkness. So if you don't want to be spoiled, fast forward through the next 30 seconds. But in essence, Great Mazin Kaiser in the manga gets mollywopped by Mazinger Zero. He gets beat up pretty bad. And so the second train of thought is that they didn't want to put Great Mazin Kaiser in Super Robot Wars V because he already lost to Shin Mazinger Zero. I don't know if I agree with that. It actually makes more sense, the first theory, but we don't know. So those are pretty much the two theories that I've read online. Maybe there is an official reason why the developers decided to make him different from Great Mazin Kaiser, but it's probably in Japanese, and so I haven't heard it if there is one. But anyway, so that's what we've got for the manual. So now we'll take a look at his accessories a little bit more closely. So let's take a look at his accessories. Now, in typical figure fashion, he has 5 sets of hands. So he's got his sword hands here. He's got his open hands, and let's take a look here. So you can kind of see the detail on those hands. So pretty good, right? So he's got wide open hands there. He's got another set of almost like salute hands. I can get that to focus. He's got like some salute hands. Good detail work by Sentinel on that. So you've got those. And then he's got his Thunderbolt breaker hands, or his pointing hands. Let's take a look at those. So pretty cool. So that's what he's got for his hands. Then he's got his Emperor blades. So you get 2 of these. So you've got these can fold in and out. So you can kind of bring them out like that. So that's pretty cool. And then these can combine. So what you do is pull this off, put this piece in here, and then you combine those. And then we'll pull this other one off here. And there are your dual blades for your Emperor blades. Then you get 2 of these. This is for his Great Smasher Punch. So these are very much like Great Mazinger. So you get 2 of those. Those go on his arms, and he has these blades that like rotate, and he can shoot them at the enemies. So it's kind of like his version of the Rocket Punch. So that's what you have for the Great Smasher Punch parts. Then you have the Emperor blade. Not very heavy. I can definitely tell it's plastic, no metal in this guy, but this is his main primary weapon. So you have the Emperor blade. Then you have the pieces for the cape here. So you got red on the inside, black on the outside. These do semi-move around, so you can move them around. All right, so you'd have that, and then the connection piece is this piece. So this is the booster here, and pretty much you would just have them connected this way, like this. And then that is his backpack. So, and you would just put that on his back. So pretty cool that he has a cape, I must admit. But so that's what you have for the cape. And then you have the Emperor Condor. So this pretty much is his powder. So this would go into the head there, but you do have a separate one for this. This one, I don't know if it actually goes in or not. We'll try that here a little later, but I think it's just a separate piece for the powder. So that's what you have for the Emperor Condor. And then you have the special parts that you get in the D4 exclusive set. So this, I want to say it's pronounced Aureole, but I could be mistaken about that. But this pretty much is a extra booster that he has. So pretty much what you would do is just take these, and then you would put them on this way. And you'd have that. So that would be his extra backpack. So you have that. So that is the special D4 exclusive, or the Sentinel exclusive parts for his other backpack. So that's what you have there. And then you have a miniature version of his backpack. So you do have this if you don't want to put the big backpacks on. So that's what you have for that. So that's what you have for his accessories. He gets a decent amount. Of course, there are a few that they're missing as far as just special effect parts and stuff like that. But overall, you get most of his equipment here. So now what we'll do is we will take a look at Mazing Emperor G himself. So let's take a look at some of his detail work here. So it's pretty interesting. He's not really that heavy. I can tell that there's die casting here, but I'll say that maybe outside of like the main metal parts on the feet and the arms and stuff like that, it does seem like he has a considerable amount of plastic. But you know, he does look really sharp. So I will give him that. If he is not a alternate version of Great Mazinger, they definitely took inspiration from him on it, because with the gold accents, he's got the gold accents for the hands there. He's got the gold accents here on the elbow and there when you bend that up. So he's got a lot of the sharper edges. He has the fins on the side of the thighs, just like Great Mazinger does. He's got the gold accents for the knees. So he's got that in there. Really good detail work on the back of the cab there. So I really do like that as well. So he looks like he's really put together there, I must admit. So got a lot of detail work in here, a lot of detail work here for the abdomen section. Of course, you have the blaster section here. So you can deal with that there. His head piece looks good. This Emperor Condor does come out, but I don't think the other one's gonna be able to go in there just because of how that connects, because there's no place for those two longer pieces on it to go. So that's probably only the one that'll go in his head. So you do have that there. So overall, I think he looks really, really nice. I will say I am a tad bit underwhelmed that he doesn't have as much metal. I expected him to be a little bit heavier than this. Overall, I think he still looks great. So now what we'll do is we'll take a look at his articulation. So let's run through his articulation real quick. So first for the head, he can look up, down, way down, side to side. So he's got that. Now, where his articulation comes from, there's a ball joint at the bottom of his neck. So it's not really his face, it's the neck portion. But can you spin this 360? It looks like you can. All right, so you've got that. And then for the powder, that does come out, so you can put that in. The other one I don't think will fit, because this one, let me grab it real quick. That one, there's no way to put that in there without collapsing that. So it looks like it's just for show. But yeah, so those go in and out there, just like that. So that's what you got for the head. Now for the arms. So for the arms, he can raise it up about this high. Now what it is he's got, let me move this in so we can see. For his shoulder, it's connected by like a round ball joint there. So he can't really get it up any higher than that. So even though this part moves in and out like that, unfortunately, it's just gonna go to about shoulder length, so you can't raise it all the way up. Now, you can do it another way by kind of turning it, and then you can kind of get it up that way, but just from the shoulder part here, just because of how this runs, that's as high as you're gonna be able to get that. So that's what you've got for the shoulder. And then for the bicep, this will spin 360. So just be careful with it, but it will move. So you've got that for the bicep. And then for the elbow, you can move this up, but not that much. It looks like it only goes in that much. So it's a decent elbow bend. I've seen better, but it's definitely not the worst I've seen. So that's what you have for the elbow. Then for the forearm, what you've got here is this can spin, I would say about 45 degrees. You might be able to do that, but it's gonna wanna unhook, because you see how that comes out that way. And for his like rocket punch, that makes sense that can work, but that's what you've got for the forearm. And then for the wrist, with his wrist articulation, it pretty much is right around this part here where the gold is. And so that can move up like that. It can go somewhat down. You do have some side movements there as well. So that's pretty good considering, but for the actual hand part, you're not really gonna get anything out of there. There's just no, it's just right where this part is. So I think that's a pretty decent compromise. So that's what you have for the wrist. Now for his chest area, this can move down. So you can move that down and it will raise up some. So you can do that. This will also spin. So you can do that. And then for the bigger part here, these will go in, but you kind of want to collapse them at the same time. So those will go in, so that'll give you a little bit more range for the shoulders. So he does have that. Then for the midsection, this, you can raise that in and then it'll even go down even further back here. So he has 2 points of articulation there. So that's really good. And then he can go back like that. So that's pretty good there. He does have side to side, but it's at this upper part here. So he can go down that way and then he can go down this way. Okay, so he does have that. Can he spin it 360? Not really, because where he spins at the upper chest part. So you can go probably about, because what, that's 90 degrees. So you got about 90 degrees there of a turn. So that's pretty good considering, but it looks like going right, you've only got about 45. So that's what you've got there. As far as the midsection turning, that doesn't really want to turn. So that's not where midsection is going to turn. So it looks like it's just going to be at the upper torso area there. So that's what you have for the midsection. Then for the waist area, he does have this section that can move on the belt, but since he doesn't really have any side skirts or any kind of back skirts or anything like that, there's nothing really to keep him from being able to move. So you've got that. For the legs, what he can do is he can raise this up, but if you're raising it directly up, that's about as far as he can get. Now, if I spin this a little bit and then move that up, now it goes up really high. So that's what, 120, but it is at an angle. It's not really forward all that much. So that's what you've got there. And then for the thigh, let me move this back down here. For the thigh, you do have the fins like you do on Great Mazin Kaiser, but they don't move in and out. They don't move at all. They're kind of stationary. But where he gets his articulation is on, it's almost like it's on a track almost, in this small little area in here. And you can kind of rotate that around. So that's quite interesting how they did that. But can you do 360? Yeah, it looks like you can. You will have to move it out of the way, but you do have that at the thigh area. Back to the knee, he does have a really good knee bend. That's really good right there. So of course you got the gold accents here. You've got the V shape there. And then one other thing, and if you look at the back, look how this works when you're bending the knee. So that kind of goes in on itself. So that's pretty cool how they did that. So I do like that. So that's what you've got for the knees. And then for the feet, what you've got is you've got it on a ball joint in here. So it will raise up like this. You can go side to side. So you've got that. Can you do it 360? It doesn't look like it just because of how the bottom of the leg is kind of impeding that there. But it does look like you've got a pretty decent range of motion there. So between 45 and 90 degrees on both sides. It does not really go down all that much. So you can see this break here, but it doesn't look like that wants to go down at all. So that's what you've got for the feet. And then another interesting part about the thigh is that you can't really, it will go in, but there is resistance here at this plastic piece here. So unfortunately, you can't really get his legs to cross one another or anything. There is no drop down here in the hip either. So unfortunately, that's kind of like where he's standing like that. That's pretty much as close together as his thighs can get. Can he do the splits? For the most part, he can. Of course, his fins will want to hit his belt here. You can kind of try to move those out of the way, but ultimately it's not too bad. So he can do the splits. So that's what we have for articulation. Not too bad, but not the greatest I've seen so far, but he's got decent articulation. So now that we're done with that, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna start putting all of his accessories on. So let's do that next. So there you have him, Mazing Emperor G. He looks pretty good with his cape, I must admit. I'm not really into capes like that, but it does look really, really good. These will move as well, so you can kind of move the capes around. All right, if you want to spread them or if you want to have them close together. Looks pretty cool. You know, it's reflective as far as the inside here. And then the back side for the black, it does have a gloss finish there. So that's really interesting. Now for the backpack itself, it's interesting because this is locked in there. And what it is this piece here. So really, he can't really, this won't pull off because it's locked in to his back. But if I turn this knob and turn it that way, then you can kind of plug this out. So I think that that's pretty interesting how they did that. And then if you want to put the miniature one in, you can kind of put it in like this, and then kind of put that in there like that. So that's what you've got for those two pieces there. So he does look really, really good, I must admit. And how that works, I am impressed with how that works as well. I think that that's a pretty cool gimmick how they have it, instead of it kind of sliding in there and then just kind of using friction or whatever to keep it together. The fact that that locks in place is actually pretty cool. So you've got that. So I really do like that. Now what we'll do is we'll put the Aureole version of the backpack on, and we'll do that next. So here we have Mazin Emperor G with the Aureole. Every time I say that, I kind of want to say Oreo, but you know, so it's pretty simple as far as the design and everything. Now, of course, if you've played the game, in the game, he would kind of shoot this like a rocket at the opponent, this whole back part here. So it's kind of like a plane or whatever. And so, you know, it's an interesting look. Now, of course, I have him in the Obari pose, which is always difficult for a lot of figures to do. For the most part, this one is pretty simple just because you can move these two in. And so that kind of gives him the angle that he needs in order to pull this pose off. But it's not too bad. So I must admit, it looks pretty cool. So this is the D4 exclusive, or the Sentinel exclusive pieces here on the back. So, you know, it does look pretty solid. So one last thing I want to do before we go into a size comparison, because I definitely want to compare him to Great Mazin Kaiser, is I want to do like his rocket punch and see what those things look like on his wrist. So we'll do that next. So next, what I want to do is I want to take you through the Great Smasher Punch as far as how this connects. It's pretty simple, so I don't think anybody will have a difficult time with it, but let's just go through it just in case. So what we've got here is, look, you're gonna take this piece off, all right? And then what this is going to do here, and what this is going to do is this is gonna split apart. Now, what you don't wanna do is you don't wanna put pressure on this piece here, because this may snap if you put too much pressure. But really, all you're gonna do really is kind of try to get this separated, and then kind of pull that off. So that just comes off just like that. And then this part will slide back on there just like that. And it's the same deal. You don't want to put pressure on the blades, but you kind of just snap that together. And then let's put this back on. Now, of course, his V in the front is kind of there, but so that's what you have for the Great Smasher Punch as far as putting that on. So it's not that difficult. It's just like right now his V is in the way for me. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll move that up there and then put this back in there. Now you saw this on Great Mazin Kaiser. So of course with the big blades, of course that can be a little problem, and there's no effect parts with this guy, which I think is kind of a misfire for Sentinel. Now Sentinel is already expensive, so usually they do their effect parts in a different set, but I don't know if they're even going to do one for this one. But if they weren't going to do it, they should have just put it in the box, because you could have had like a blast effect there on the arm there. But that's what that Great Smasher Punch looks like, and then of course you can do that for the other side as well. So I just wanted to go over that real quick so you see how that goes on. So he's pretty simple for a figure. There's not really anything that's super complicated about him, so it's pretty straightforward. So he's not overly complex as far as taking pieces off, putting pieces on, things of that nature. So now what we're going to do is I'm gonna bring out the big boy, Great Mazin Kaiser, and I wanna compare these two side by side. So we'll do that next. Now let's do some size comparisons for Mazin Emperor G. Now I'm not gonna bring out a ton of stuff, but I am gonna bring out a couple just so we can see how he stacks up to some of the other figures that I have. So first, let's bring out the Action Toys Voltron. Let's see if we can move him over there slightly and then move Voltron over this way. So as you can see, Voltron is a little bit taller than him. Now he's at 8.66, I think, inches, or 8.6 inches. And Mazing Emperor G, he's a little bit smaller than him. So I would say he's maybe about 8 inches for him. So he's a little bit smaller. Now the thing about this is that both of these are relatively the same price. So roughly about that between 215 and 250 range. So you can give or take whether or not which one you think is better there. But what the real comparison that I wanted to do for him, let's go ahead and take Voltron out of the way, is I want to bring out the person that he most compares to, and that is Great Mazin Kaiser. So from CCS Toys. So as you can see, Great Mazin Kaiser is super big compared to him. So they're relatively in the same pose as well. Now the thing about this is if you look at a comparison between the two, the V is very, very similar. Not necessarily the same, but very similar. The faces are relatively similar except for he's got 2 gold pieces here. Great Mazin Kaiser has 1. The powder looks pretty similar. If you look at the gold and silver on him, they are practically the same as far as where they're at. So it really just depends on what backpack you like more. Do you like the Great Booster that from Great Mazin Kaiser, or do you like the Emperor Condor and that whole cape aesthetic for Mazin Emperor G? But these two are very, very similar. So I can definitely tell because I'm pretty sure that the manga for Great Mazin Kaiser came out before Mazin Emperor G with Super Robot Wars. So I would say that this guy was inspired by this guy. Now, the thing about it is I still like Great Mazin Kaiser better just from his look. The gold accents are a little bit more pronounced here and here with the fins. Now, the one thing about these two figures as well is that both of these figures are relatively the same price. And so if you're doing a comparison as far as what you get in the box for this guy, like to me, it's Great Mazin Kaiser hands down. He's bigger, he's heavier, he's got lighting gimmicks, he's got everything. So if I was CCS, what I would do is I would make, just like you use the Mazin Kaiser SKL mold, and that was kind of molded from this guy, just make a Mazin Emperor G. I don't think that you would have to do too much to him because they pretty much have relatively the same type of gimmicks and powers and all of that stuff. They had 2 swords. They have their great Kaiser swords and things of that nature. They have their tornado punches. So they're pretty much the same. So it really just depends on which one you like. For me, if I had to compare the two, especially considering that they're roughly both about the same price, to me, it's Great Mazin Kaiser wins hands down. But if you do like this aesthetic, that doesn't mean that this guy is bad. It's just that I think CCS would be wise to do I know there's a Studio or a Sky Studio X, I think, or a Studio X version of Mazin Emperor G that's supposed to be coming out soon. We have seen a prototype. If I can find the picture, I'll put it in this video. But that has already been announced. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here. So hopefully CCS Toys will give us Mazin Emperor G in this size, because that's pretty much what I consider to be like the best size there. So that's what we've got for size comparison. So now we'll get into final thoughts. So last thoughts on this guy, you know, this is an interesting piece. This is the first Riobot figure that I've bought. I've bought plenty of Sentinel, but this is kind of like a subcategory under the Sentinel line. So, you know, to me with this figure, it's good, but it's not great. I think that he is a little overpriced. His retail price is about $250, and to be honest, I don't know if he's worth $250. But overall, as far as his articulation and all of that stuff is relatively good. The extra piece that you get for the D4 or the Sentinel site exclusive, that's cool. But to be honest, I expected him to be a little bit heavier. I expected him to have a little bit more die cast in here. And to be honest, even though there's die cast in it for sure, there's not a lot in there. So he's relatively light. He's very plasticky. And then also I would say that he lacks some effect parts. I think effect parts could have kind of put this guy over the top. I mean, getting the Aureole or whatever, you know, how you pronounce that backpack is cool. But if you would have given him some effect parts for his special moves, I think that would have been even better, and it kind of would have made it a little bit more worth the price. I think overall his articulation is good, the detail in it is good. There's not really anything that it truly lacks. It's just good. It's good, but not great, you know? And so for me, when it comes to trying to score this guy, it's interesting because I'd have to compare him to the great Mazin Kaiser from CCS Toys, and to me that's just a better figure. And he's bigger, he has more effect parts, he's heavier, and he's cheaper. This guy is $256. That great Mazin Kaiser is like $230. So to me, if you were gonna pick this guy up, I would say see if you can get him around the $225 range. Because the thing about this guy, especially since I had to order him from D4 Toys, like I had to pay $100 for shipping. So you're talking about $250 plus $100. So this guy is $350, and to me, he's definitely not worth that. Now, if we're just talking about the retail price alone of $250, I would still say that he's slightly overpriced. I think if you can get him at the $220, $215-ish range, around there, I think that you would be good to go. Of course, if you live in Japan, then you don't have to worry about shipping, but you know, for all the rest of us that don't live in Japan, that is something that you do have to take into consideration. Now, as far as Mazinger or that series is concerned, there's really only one or two that I really want that I'm missing. I'm missing the Mazinger Z, and I'm missing the great Mazinger. You know, other than that, you know, it's good. So I would say out of 10, I'm gonna give this guy an 8.5. He does everything good, but nothing spectacular. Nothing that really is blowing me away. But I think as far as his look, if you like this look more than great Mazin Kaiser, then go right ahead and get him. But for me, I kind of prefer the CCS Toys great Mazin Kaiser. Now, if CCS Toys does this Mazin Emperor G, I'm gonna be all over that, because I think that there's enough here to work with, but there's no effect parts. Like some of his special moves, like lightning effects and attacks and stuff like that, you can't really do because they don't give you anything for it. And so even though he does things well, he doesn't do anything spectacular. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you could like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, send this out to all the people that you know that are Mazinger fans, I would appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.